In 711, the Umayyad Caliphate's army arrived in the southern region of the Iberian Peninsula, marking the beginning of a new era in medieval Spain and the emergence of new Islamic art. Over the next 7 years, almost the entire peninsula, previously controlled by the Visigoths, came under Muslim rule. These newly conquered lands were referred to as Al-Andalus. By 750, a new Arab faction in the eastern part of the Caliphate, led by Abul Abbas as-Saffah, revolted against the ruling dynasty and successfully overthrew the Umayyad rulers in Damascus. The new Abbasid dynasty showed no mercy to their predecessors, assassinating the surviving Umayyads and desecrating the graves of deceased ones. However, one prince, Abd al-Rahman I, escaped from North Africa to Spain and established the emirate in Cordoba. Different terms describe Islamic-style art in Spain, each with its own significance. The most well-known term is Moorish Art, which sometimes refers to Islamic visual culture in general. A lesser-known term, Mudajar, specifically denotes the architecture carried out by Muslim craftsmen for Christian patrons. The Mudajar architecture incorporates Islamic art and architectural elements such as Arabic calligraphy and the Horseshoe arch. The significance of Moorish art lies in its ability to blend elements from different traditions and create distinct styles. In medieval Spain, Christians and Jews resided in a Muslim-controlled kingdom, sharing knowledge and artistic traditions while speaking the same language. The Umayyad courts strongly influenced Moorish art in Cordoba, Granada, Toledo, Seville, and Malaga. The patronage of these city-state rulers played a vital role in introducing artistic innovations, as they considered the patronage of artistic endeavors a privilege of kingship and did not discriminate based on the artisan's religion. Cordoba served as the capital of Islamic Spain until Ferdinand III of Castile captured it. Abd al-Rahman I made Cordoba the capital of Al-Andalus and initiated the construction of the Great Mosque of Cordoba, known as La Mezquita in Spanish. By the 10th century, the city boasted around 50 mosques, with the Great Mosque always being the religious center. The mosque was built on the site of a Visigothic church that Muslims and Christians had previously shared. Abd al-Rahman II and Al-Hakim II expanded the mosque by adding new prayer niches, mihrabs. One of the mihrabs, dating back to the 9th century, is as large as a spacious room and has now been transformed into the Villa Viciosa chapel. Adjacent to this mihrab is the royal enclosure, adorned with intricately carved stucco decorations and multi-lobed horseshoe arches. The other mihrab from the 10th century is an octagonal chamber integrated into the Qibla wall, featuring a grand ribbed dome supported by arches. The dome's interior is embellished with colorful gold and glass mosaics, possibly gifted by the Byzantine emperor. This mihrab symbolizes the elevation of the Umayyad rulers from emirs to caliphs in 929. The most remarkable architectural feature of the Great Mosque is the two-tiered freestanding horseshoe arches resting on columns. Unfortunately, the mosque's appearance was compromised in the 16th century when a cathedral was erected in the middle of the sanctuary. The minaret of the Great Mosque now resides within the cathedral's bell tower. Madinat al-Zahra, a palace city dating back to the 10th century, is located west of Cordoba. Although now in ruins, this expansive complex was initiated by Abd al-Rahman II and completed by his son Al-Hakim II. It was named after Abd al-Rahman's beloved wife, Zahra, and was intended to serve as a luxurious residence and administrative center away from the bustling capital of Cordoba. The palace complex is an intriguing example of how the Spanish Umayyads sought to replicate the architecture and customs of their more influential predecessors in Damascus. Specifically, the complex is believed to evoke memories of Abd al-Rahman's country residence at Rusafa in Syria, blending traditional Islamic art motifs such as symmetrical vegetal scrolls and intricate geometric patterns adorning various surfaces. The artworks created in Madinat al-Zahra were products of a Mediterranean aesthetic that drew inspiration from local Spanish traditions and those of the Umayyads' native Syria. In 1010, Madinat al-Zahra was destroyed during a Berber revolt, and its treasures were looted. Peter of Castile subsequently repurposed some of the palace's materials in constructing his palace in Seville. Many artifacts from Madinat al-Zahra found their way to northern Europe, where they were admired and preserved. Seville, originally the capital of the Visigoths until their relocation to Toledo, was captured by the Arabs in the 8th century. and remained a Muslim city until the early 13th century when Ferdinand III conquered it. Despite this transition, Seville retained its significance as a hub of Moorish art throughout the Middle Ages. During the Islamic era, the city thrived in silk weaving and scholarship. Regrettably, little remains of the early Islamic city. Fragments of the first Umayyad mosque established in 859 can be found within the church of San Salvador, including arcades supported by columns and possibly the oldest surviving Muslim building in Spain, the minaret. The present-day Cathedral of Santa Maria de la Sede was constructed on the site of the Almohad Great Mosque, built in 1172. Although the mosque no longer stands, the minaret known as La Giralda still dominates the city's main square. The interior features 7 chambers, 1 on each level, each exhibiting a distinct type of vault. The most notable example of Moorish art and architecture in Seville is the Alcazar, reconstructed as the Palace of Peter of Castile in the 14th century. Many skilled masons and artisans were employed from Granada, which accounts for some of the lavish decoration and design similarities between this palace and the Alhambra. The palace also incorporated columns and other building materials salvaged from Madinat al-Zahra following its destruction in 1010. The palace encompasses a series of courtyards or patios adorned with exquisitely carved stone arcades. Toledo served as the capital of the Visigoths until its capture by the Arabs in 712 CE. The Arabs made Toledo their capital until they later relocated to Cordoba in 717. Despite being captured by Christians in 1085, Toledo remained a significant frontier city. Muslims and Jews continued to contribute to the city's intellectual life, particularly through translations of scientific treatises. Many remnants from the Islamic period still stand in Toledo, including notable examples of Moorish art. One of the most renowned gates in the city is the Old Bisagra Gate, also known as Puerta de Alfonso VI, which El Cid entered in 1085. Several important religious buildings can be found within Toledo, one of which is the Mosque of Cristo de la Luz, formerly known as the Mosque of Bab al-Mardum. This 9-domed mosque, constructed in 999, features an elevated central dome. Originally, it had triple entrances on 3 sides and a mihrab on the south side. 3 of its exterior faces are built with brick and adorned with a band of Kufic inscriptions. Below the inscriptions is a geometric panel above decorative intersecting round horseshoe arches. Granada stands out as one of the longest-lasting strongholds of Islamic Spain, rising to prominence after the defeat of other Muslim city-states in the 13th century. From 1231 to 1492, Granada was ruled by the Nasrid dynasty, which maintained alliances with neighboring Christian territories. The pinnacle of not only Moorish art, but Islamic art as a whole, is the palace complex of Alhambra. Rather than being a single palace, it is a complex of multiple palaces constructed over centuries. While the earliest parts of the complex date back to the 12th century, most of the buildings were erected during the 14th and 15th centuries. Several public buildings, including the Hammam, Banuelo Carrera del Darro, one of Spain's finest remaining examples, can be found within the Alhambra walls. Another significant structure in the city is the Casa del Carbon, coal exchange, formerly known as the Funduk al-Yadida, New Market. As is typical of Moorish art, the decoration in Granada's structures results from a synthesis of pre-existing local Spanish traditions and artistic influences from neighboring Christian regions, North Africa, Iran, and the Near East. The distinct Nasrid style is characterized by slender columns, vibrant geometric tilework, horseshoe arches, intricately carved plaster walls with lace-like patterns and Arabic inscriptions, extensive use of muqarnas, small honeycomb-like niches used for architectural embellishment, and 4-part gardens. While Nasrid's rule in Spain ended in 1492, the Christian conquerors from the north continued to utilize the Alhambra Palace. They incorporated many Andalusian forms and styles into their own visual culture. Following the gradual decline of Islamic rule in Spain, the influence of its intellectual, philosophical, and theological legacy profoundly impacted Europe's cultural development. Despite losing political power, the skills and artistic styles were disseminated from Spain to the rest of the continent. One of the most notable contributions is seen in Gothic architecture, which adopted elements such as pointed and multifoil arches and ribbed vaulting. In the 16th century, as the Spanish ventured to Mexico, they carried their shared Christian and Muslim cultural heritage with them. Their homeland's artistic and architectural styles were introduced to the New World. Furthermore, the presence of Spanish Catholic missions in California and Arizona, established by Franciscan monks in the 18th and 19th centuries, further extended this influence. The impact of Moorish art and designs can be observed in structures like San Xavier del Bac and San Luis Rey de Francia, showcasing the fusion of Islamic and Christian aesthetics.